The next set of parameters is the hybrid parameters. In short, they are also called as H parameters. Okay. So here, what are the independent and what are the dependent variables, right? So once again, we will first mark the voltages and the currents. Currents will be entering, both the currents and the voltages are like this. Okay. So here I1 and V2, these are the independent parameters, and the other two, that is V1 and I2, these are the dependent parameters. So the equations are going to be V1 is equal to H11 I1 plus H12 V2. Next, I2 is equal to H21 I1 plus H22 V2. So these are the two equations. You can write in the matrix form. V1 I2 is equal to H11, H12, H21 and H22. What will be the matrix here? I1 and V2. So this is the dependent matrix, this is the independent variable matrix, and this is the H parameter matrix. We can now define the H parameters just like we have discussed the impedance and admittance parameters. H11 will be what? In the equation 1, if you substitute V2 is equal to 0, then the ratio of V1 and I1 will give you H1, right? So H11 is equal to V1 by I1 when V2 is equal to 0. So what will be the units here? Units is in ohms because it is the ratio of voltage and current. Now another thing that you can observe here is V2 is equal to 0. That means it is a short circuit parameter, and V1 by I1, that means on the input side. So this we call it, we name H11 as the short circuit input impedance. Okay. Then next H12. H12 also you will get from equation 2. What is it? V1 by V2 when I1 is equal to 0. So what is the units here? It will have no units because it is the ratio of voltage and voltage. So it is called as the voltage gain, V1 by V2. Usually we write gain as output by input, but since it is input by input, we write as the reverse voltage gain. Also, the current I1 is equal to 0 here. That means it is an open circuit parameter, right? So here we write open circuit reverse voltage gain. What is the next parameter? H21. So this is going to be from the second equation, you're going to get H21 is equal to I2 by I1 when V2 is 0. I2 by I1 when V2 is 0. So what will be the units here? No units here as well. This is the current gain. This is output by input current. So this is not reverse gain, this is direct current gain. Okay. And what about the short circuit or open circuit? Since the voltage is 0, call it as a short circuit parameter. So short circuit current gain. And finally H22. This is I2 by V2 when under the condition I1 is equal to 0. What about the units here? Here the units is that of admittance, which is mho or Siemens. Okay. And what about its name? It is an open circuit parameter and it is a admittance. Which side admittance? Output side admittance. So open circuit output admittance. So we can see here that each of the H parameters, they are all different. If you consider the Z parameter and Y parameters, Z parameters were completely all impedances and Y parameters were all admittances, but here H11 is an impedance, H12 is voltage gain, H21 is current gain and H22 is admittance. So for this reason we call them as hybrid parameters. Let us now see the equivalent circuit representation. So first we will write the equations. V1 is equal to H11 I1 plus H12 V2 and I2 is equal to H21 I1 plus H22 V2. So what would be the first equation? The first equation is a KVL because voltages are being added. The second equation is a KCL. So this will form a parallel circuit, this will form a series circuit. Okay. So we can draw, first we will draw the input side. We are going to get H11. Current I1 will flow here and the voltage V1 will be marked like this, and you will have a voltage source here, a dependent voltage source. It is a voltage dependent voltage source. Okay. Then on the other side you will have, on the output side you will have the parallel circuit. Okay. Here H21 I1 will be the current source, dependent current source, and H22 V2 since it is the admittance parameter. So you will have the admittance, this will be the current source, and this will be the admittance. What is the admittance? This is H22. Remember, here we are writing admittance, whereas this is impedance. Okay. If you want to express all in terms of impedances, then this will be H11, this will be 1 by H22. Okay. So this is I2 and this is voltage V2. Then what will be the current direction here? It will be in this direction. Okay. So what is this? H21 I1. So this entire thing is the two-port network and the two terminals we are taking out like this. Okay. So this is the equivalent circuit representation in terms of the H parameters. Now we also have another set of hybrid parameters which we call as inverse hybrid parameters, and this is called as, it is also called as G parameters. Okay. Now here what will be the independent and dependent variables? It will be just opposite to what we saw in the H parameters. Okay. So here the independent variables are going to be V1 and I2, and the dependent variable, this is independent variable, and the dependent variables is going to be I1 and V2. In H parameters what was the case? V1 and I2 were dependent on I1 and V2. Okay. So now we can write the equations here. The first dependent variable I1, this we will write as G11 V1 plus G12 I2, and the next dependent variable is V2, which is G21 V1 plus G22 I2. This is equation 1 and this is equation 2. And if you want to write in the matrix form, then the dependent variables will be equal to the G parameter matrices G11, G12, G21 and G22, and the independent variable matrices V1 and I2. Just like in the previous case, we can write down the expressions for each of the G parameters. What will be G11? From equation 1 you can write as I1 by V1 when I2 is equal to 0. So what will be the units here? This is the units of admittance. What will it be? Mho or Siemens. Okay. So what will be the name of this parameter? This is going to be open circuit input admittance. Open circuit because the current is 0, input side because I1 by V1, and it is admittance because it is a ratio of current and voltage. If you can remember, H11 was V1 by I1. Okay, so it was the short circuit. We had to short circuit the V2 side. Okay, V2 is equal to 0. So it is a short circuit input impedance. Here everything is inverse. What is it? It is open circuit input admittance. Okay, only input side is matching, nothing else is matching. Okay. Now what is the next expression? G12. So this is I1 by I2 when under the condition V1 is equal to 0. What about the units here? This has no units, and this will be short circuit because the voltage is 0, short circuit reverse current gain, right? Because gain we say when it is output by input, since here we have input by output, we say reverse current gain. Then what about G21? G21 you are going to get as V2 by V1 when I2 is equal to 0. Here also no units. Now what will be the name here? This is open circuit voltage gain, simple voltage gain. And finally G22, this will be equal to V2 by I2 under the condition V1 is equal to 0. So what will be the units here? This is the unit of impedance, which is ohms, and this is short circuit output impedance. Okay, let us now see the equivalent circuit representation. Once again we will write the equations. So I1 is equal to G11 V1 plus G12 I2. V2 is equal to G21 V1 plus G22 I2. So the first equation will be a parallel circuit because it is the addition of currents, and this here we will have a series circuit. So the input side you are going to get a circuit element, since this is the voltage V1 here and current I1 is flowing, G11 element you can take as a circuit element. The other term you will have to use a dependent source because it is dependent on the current in the output side. So this is G12 I2. What is G11 here? Remember, this is the admittance. So if you want to write in terms of impedance, you will have to write 1 by G11. Okay, and on the output side you will have series elements. So you will have a circuit element, current I2 will be flowing, G22 will be the impedance. Next, the voltage source will be like this. So this is what G21 V1, and the voltage V2 is like this. Okay, so these two, finally it will be connected like this. Okay, so now this entire part will be the two-port network. And lastly, what are the conditions for symmetry and reciprocity for both the parameters, H parameters and G parameters? Condition for symmetry and H reciprocity. So for the H parameters, the condition for symmetry is H11 H22 minus H12 H21 is equal to 1, and the reciprocity condition is given by H12 is equal to minus H21. Okay, then what about the G parameters? Here also something similar is going to be there, G11 G22 minus G12 G21 is equal to 1, and similarly G12 is equal to minus G21. So these are the conditions for symmetry and reciprocity using the H parameters and the G parameters.